What's up, everybody? Lawler here. It is Sunday night, technically Monday afternoon, morning, depending on when the video comes out for y'all. I'm tired. I casted all weekend long in Apex Legends, and unfortunately, because of that, I didn't get to watch many of the matches for this past weekend of RLCS Regional 2. I did catch both the semifinals as well as the grand finals, so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But today's recap is going to be more so talking about the results, surprising results. My predictions went horribly, and I'm kind of okay with it. Primarily like Stromboli, and I'll get to that later. But yeah, today's video, we're going to be talking about the recap of regionals this past weekend if you guys didn't get to watch it. So as a heads up, going to be some spoilers in here, but at the very end of the video, just as a reminder, I'm going to be talking to you about teams that, number one, have automatically qualified. In the video out tomorrow, which I already recorded, the video that's out tomorrow, I end up talking about how one team is automatically qualified. It's because I was recording it, trying to get ahead of the curve. I'm busy, guys. I'm just, bear with me, okay? What's up, everybody? Lawler here, your inside source for all things Rocket League. As I was mentioning a little bit ago, we're going to be recapping North American Regional 2 for the spring split. At the end of the video, I'll be talking about a couple things. Number one, the teams that have automatically qualified for Worlds. I do in tomorrow's video talk a little bit about that. It's just the information hadn't been updated yet because I was trying to get ahead of schedule. And then I'll also talk about teams that are still actually in the running. There is 6 teams total, and one of them can basically only qualify if a specific circumstance happens. So I will talk about that as well. But first things first, we're going to go in order. We're going to talk about groups, and then we're going to go through knockout round, and then we'll get into the final day for playoffs. So first things first, let's take a look at all the groups. We got A, B, C, and D. These are your results. We've got Space Station 4-0, Phase 3-1, Rogue 2-2, Alpine 1-3, and Scuba 0-4, which we did call. That one was more so trying to figure out in the death group who was going to come out on top, and Space Station has definitely been grinding. There's been a lot of emphasis of this team where they kind of let off the gas after the Fall Major. The Fall Major is also the last time that Space Station has won either a regional or a main event. So it has been a little bit of a hiatus after they went on their tear where they won just about everything. So they're looking to get bounced back. It looks like the team, based upon all the tweets from Reddles and Arsenal and everybody else, remotivated and reinvigorated, trying to make sure they get back to top tier form. So 4-0 for them, I think, is a really good sign. You get to Group B, Kansas City Pioneers, then Stromboli, Charlotte Phoenix version 1, 72 PC. Stromboli surprising everybody, going 3-1. If you look at the last regional, they went 0-4 and got smacked with like a -8 game differential or something like that. So yeah, for them to play this well, surprised a lot of people, myself included, but congrats to them. Of course, version 1 goes to like game 5 in literally everything. It's a 10-10 game differential. Of course, it comes down to the wire, gives everybody a heart attack. And unfortunately for 72 PC, I thought they were trending pretty good with Spider. And unfortunately, because Stromboli steps up, they fall short. In Group C, we got G2 playing with Drees. First time he's playing a major event, looking pretty dang good. And the fun thing about G2, I'll try to do some power rankings actually coming up here soon. G2 is a really tough one to give a nod to because they're only going to get better the more and more comfortable that you get with Drees. So I'm excited for G2's development. Energy just behind them, 3-1. G2 is the one that hands Energy their loss. We then got RBG, which is the sup roster that recently got picked up. Ghost Gaming, and then Pittsburgh Knights, unfortunately 0-4. Pittsburgh Knights has definitely been struggling as of late. There's 3 teams that I talked about. Not sure. I talked about how RBG could possibly play upset. They do. And that Ghost and PK could be fighting for those spots. Turns out that is the circumstance. Ghost does lose to RBG, which I was like, that could happen. But I did not expect them to also beat PK. So shout out to RBG. Way to step up, especially after the recent signing. In the final group, in Group D, you've got Envy 3-1, Sonics 3-1, Rolled is Magic, Xset 3-1, and then United 1-3 with Nefarious 0-4. United not able to find that defense that was so strong in the grid, but Xset continuing their stretch. Good for them. Awesome to see. They've actually got some pretty exciting results in the knockout gauntlet. Let's go take a look at those. We're going to start with the upper bracket. As always, these teams only need to win 1 because they are the top 2 seeds. As long as they win, they are in. Space Station doesn't drop a single game. They are looking insane. In the group stage, Space Station only lost 4 individual games. And then you're talking here against Sonics. They don't drop a single one and they qualify. So definitely the high seed going into the quarterfinals for the playoffs. Kansas City Pioneers plays major upset over NRG. And this one was a pretty crazy fight because KCP starts off 1-0. And then Energy bounced back. And Energy's on match point. But somehow KCP starts to ramp up and hold on. 1-goal games, 1-0 and 3-2. and they do get a victory here as well. Kansas City Pioneers, I've been lucky to watch a lot of recently. The addition of their neuroscientist in Hopsu looks like has been a welcome addition. Obviously, JG7 recently leaving and bringing in Hopsu has helped out a lot. Kansas City Pioneers seems to be right back on track. Beast mode looks as impactful as ever. Rapid is doing a really good job of being that nuisance that he can be. And Memory, just for whatever reason, just looks more solidified like he used to. So shout out to KCP. They qualify through the uppers. You then got G2 versus Stromboli. G2 walks right on through. And then FaZe Clan versus Envy. There's been some pretty big moments with actually FaZe Clan. There's actually a clip specifically of Gyro. And I kind of want to point it out. For those that don't know, Gyro is one of the nicest players and most genuine players in the scene. He's a treat, to be completely honest. And because of that, he also wears his emotions on his sleeves. He's very passionate. He cares a lot about certain things. And part of the reason for so long why I advocated about getting more interviews and face cams and all that kind of stuff in the scene is because you guys don't really get to see that side of the players unless they forcibly do it. There's a clip on the subreddit. It's probably playing right now as well if Wojtek puts it up. And I don't know if I'm jumping the gun on this. I forget when it exactly happened in the tournament. But you can see there's a double commit. And the amount of emotions that Gyro goes through, that moment of frustration and just distraught and sadness and everything else. This is the players' livelihoods. You know, there's a lot on the line. And, you know, FaZe Clan hasn't qualified for Worlds yet. They're fighting for those spots. And these matches just make and break some teams. I am jumping the gun. It is against Energy now that I remember. So I'll make sure to talk about that again in the future, just very briefly. But yeah, man, you feel for the guy and you feel for the team. But again, a big win for them over Envy. That's actually massive. It gives them a leg up overall in the competition, but it does put them up against the opposite side. And this is kind of where the strength of schedule really comes into play. Because FaZe Clan beats Envy, they are the low seed and they end up upsetting. And Kansas City Pioneers, which beats Energy, Energy and FaZe end up playing each other, which just creates a really bad opportunity for FaZe. Not the team I want to run into in that regard, but top 8, everybody top 8 sucks. Everybody's super good. There is no easy matchup. It's rough. You look at lower round 1, V1 has definitely been some inconsistencies. To provide some insight from casting them from the grid, they're putting a lot of emphasis on Calm going for demos. Calm is basically, rather than cleaning up rotation and causing an initial challenge, he'll let the player behind him get the challenge and he'll move downfield and go for a demo and stuff. It's actually what made Space Station so very good, along with the Peeps when they won DreamHack. For some reason, it's just teams are not getting caught by it anymore. They've adjusted really, really well to it. And for some reason, it feels as if the rotations are a little bit off. They're not as clean or as threatening as they once used to be. When V1's offense is clicking, it looks incredible. They can compete with the best of the best, but something they do tend to struggle with is when they go up against teams they don't have a lot of experience with, in this case SUP being newly formed, they tend to have a rough time. So SUP plays extremely well. They win 3-1. They move on to play Sonics. Xset versus Alpine. Xset continues to play well. It is not a fluke, which is awesome to see that they're having such a good turnaround time. It's a little bit late in the season, but at the same time, it's awesome to see them build upon something. As for Rogue, very close series against United. I heard about this one off camera while I was actually, I forget what I was doing on this day. So I was actually casting Apex, and someone came into the Apex Twitch channel that I was casting, and someone mentioned like, yo, dude, United's game is on match point against Rogue, and then Rogue reverse sweeps. So again, Rogue has had some kind of topsy-turvy stuff. They haven't been as dominant as we saw a little bit ago, but man, they really know how to put up a fight. For whatever reason it is, with Corrupted G, he's got a good way to get those guys back into it. So shout outs to Corrupted G and the mental side for Rogue. Last but certainly not least, Charlotte Phoenix, the former local roster. Pretty dang solid team. It's just a matter of what version of them shows up. Same thing with Ghost Gaming. Charlotte Phoenix ends up winning that one 3-1 as well. Loser quarterfinals, top down. Sonics rolled his magic some more, and they continue to perform. 3-1 for them over RBG. You then get Energy over Xset, and this is the one that I guess turned everybody's heads. Xset again up 2-0. There's an overtime in game 2 that goes 4 seconds, and Xset wins that one. Then unfortunately for them, Energy actually ends up reverse sweeping as well. So both Rogue and Energy in a pretty scary predicament, and they fight their way out of it. It's something that we talked about a lot when I used to be part of the RLCS about what makes good teams great, and it's finding a way to win no matter the situation. You may have a shaky day, you may not be playing the best, you may not be playing like the god tier major winners that you have been in the past, but if you get a win, you get a win, and that's all that matters. So especially in a pretty brutal format that this is, Energy able to hold on, and Xset definitely something that they'll want to go back and learn from. This is a phenomenal replay for them to go back and check out, like, what is it that Energy did that allowed them to come back and win. So it'll be an exciting one to actually do some deep dives on that one. Rogue 3-1 Stromboli, definitely the better team in my opinion. I say that, but Stromboli does put up a pretty good fight. A couple 1-goal games in there until it gets to the last game, where Rogue does win 5-1. Last but not least, Team Envy versus Charlotte Phoenix. I just think Charlotte Phoenix is outclassed on this one. Envy, probably one of the best defenses in North America, and they do that as well by pushing up midfield, and Atomic and Mist just go off. So yeah, Envy's a tough one. All their games are usually pretty low scoring, but they control the field extremely well. We then get into our playoffs, our top 8. We got Space Station versus Rogue, FaZe versus NRG, Kansas City Pioneers versus Envy, and G2 versus the Sonics. Up first, Space Station versus Rogue, and I talk about this a lot, but usually when you watch these matches, you can kind of tell when a team is just kind of in the zone. If you listen to the commentators, especially on the desk, primarily like Gibbs and stuff, when they start making predictions, they have a general idea of like, this is the team. They kind of pass what we call the eye test. It's something that happens all the time in sports where, yes, they may not have the results. And recently, Space Station has not had the results, either has Envy, but they pass the eye test. They're teams that are playing a certain way that you're just like, no matter what they go up against, they're going to put up either a really good fight or they're just going to take it convincingly. Space Station, their eye test for this day was impeccable. Sunday, they looked incredible, and they show that. Against a team like Rogue that has been absolute domination on offense, Space Station shuts it down with their own offense. Tons of pressure, bunch of demos. Arsenal and Reddles both just making some weird rotations to just shut them down from playing. And against a team like Rogue, you kind of have to do that. You have to get them off their game, because if you don't, someone like First Killer is going to dominate you. So really good job and a good game plan from the coach in Chrome to shut down Rogue. The second game was FaZe Clan versus NRG. This is the one I was talking about with Gyro, where they end up losing in a really heart-wrenching way. Illusion, I think, tries to go up the wall, and AJ has a better approach and gets a decent 50. And from there, it just ends up falling apart. And you see the emotions. Again, I reiterate, hard on the sleeve for Gyro. He's a very, very nice guy, super genuine. You can see that reaction, and I personally love those moments. I remember a long time ago when Gale Force Esports played in E-League 2017, and the fan base for some reason got upset that they were showing Turbo Pulsa crying. And I, as a fan of Turbo Pulsa, I'm like, I want to see that emotion. That draws me to him more as a player. That makes me connect with him on a personal level and makes me an even bigger fan. And yes, it sucks and it's unfair for him to be kind of in that public light when he's in a very vulnerable state, but it's also something that you sign up with. You're in a public figure. You're in the spotlight. You're on essentially TV. And in that circumstance, he was on TV. You know, he's on TBS for E-League. So again, that entertainment is part of it. And it was really weird to me back then that they're like, yeah, like that's not fair to Turbo. You shouldn't be showing that stuff. But I will always be one that advocates for that moments. Those moments are rough. They're tough. But they allow you to really get a grasp of what goes into these players' schedules. I mean, these guys have been grinding for 9 months relentlessly. And when stuff doesn't work out, yeah, it's a lot that takes away from you. And things like that, I think, really help us convince the mainstream, even though we don't need to with esports. That's a different conversation, but it really helps us show like these are people too. It's not just a car that has boost. It is a real human behind it, and provides that human element that I think is really important to traditional sports as well. So Gyro, shout outs to you, man. It's a very vulnerable state that you're in, and I commend you for handling it the way you did. It just shows you really care, dude. So I commend you. You got my respect even more than you already do. Next up, Kansas City Pioneers versus Envy. And Kansas City Pioneers, although they are a little weird on offense, Envy's defense, again, remains supreme. They do close it out 4-1. Don't need to really spend too much time on this one. Kansas City Pioneers does a pretty good job of keeping it close. There's multiple overtimes. In game 5, I think it was. Yeah, the 5th and final game is like a 6+ minute overtime. Again, another battle. Envy likes to give people a little bit of a heart attack sometimes, but they find ways to get the victory in the end. Tons of pop off with some of their reactions as well. So good shouts to Envy. They move on to the semifinals. I know they've been eager to try to make it back to the grand finals for quite a while. G2 Esports versus Sonics. This has kind of been the test for Drees. Everybody kind of keeping eyes on the young gun and trying to figure out how are things going to perform. And the more and more I watch it, it's definitely a different vibe. G2 still suffers, I think, a little bit from a little bit too much offense, which is ironically enough kind of takes me back to the DreamHack match, where their offense is incredible. They apply so much pressure. I think at one point Jorby was talking when they were playing Envy in the semifinals, which comes up next. It was like 11 shots to 3 with like a minute and a half left or 2 minutes left or something like that. G2's offense is scary. It's very scary, but sometimes they get a little bit too overzealous in the big counterattacks. Part of that credit is actually to Envy, and G2 does show Sonics what good offense can do. They suffocate you. They end up winning 4-1. To kind of put it in perspective, you look at the scoreline: 4-0, 0-1 Sonics, 4-0, 5-1, 4-0. That is a ton of goals. That is so many goals And G2, man, that offense, when it is clicking, is dangerous. So still getting a little bit of that vibe back without Rizzo, but it's still going to take some time to figure out how things are going to go into motion. And I honestly think G2 is only going to get better. So they do move on to the semifinals. I think that's a pretty huge accomplishment when you end up going with a brand new player in this kind of circumstance. I'm going to continue talking about it because I did talk about it a little bit ago. Team Envy versus G2. And in this regard, it is a lot of open counterattack goals from Envy. A lot of the times, G2 kind of pushes up a little bit, and then it's like Atomic on the sidewall, and he just blasts it on an open target. Placement's actually impeccable, like bottom right half the time. But again, it's a tough fight. G2 puts up a really close fight. Envy, again, is not this crazy, like insane goal scoring team. They don't put up like 4 or 5 goals a game like someone like G2 does, but they make you fight for it. They drain you down, and against a new player, I think that's really beneficial. The veteran experience, I think, comes into play. So Envy's able to hold on to it. They do win in 6. We go to the other semifinal. We've got Space Station versus NRG. And this one was kind of all over the place. A true back and forth affair. Starts off with NRG 2-1, and then we go to OT 2-1 for Space Station. They win in 4 minutes plus. We then get another win from Space Station 2-1. And then it goes the other way for NRG with a minute 41 overtime. But every game in the first 4 is a 1-goal differential. And then it starts to be the Space Station show. The demos and stuff tend to be a little bit too much. They do let off the gas a little bit, I would say, in some of those demos towards the later half of the series. But ultimately, Space Station's offense, this is kind of that eye test that I'm talking about when you're watching this and you're like, I can't really put my finger on it, but what they're doing is really annoying. And NRG's having a hard time getting away from it. And I think that's the best way to summarize Space Station right now is they're a nuisance. They're in your face. They demo you. And despite that, they still have super clean rotations. It feels as if they're almost over aggressive, but somehow they still have someone back. The times that I've seen them in particular, version 1 played them, I think, earlier last week or maybe a week ago before that. And you could just tell that despite all that pressure on offense, Typical's always in the perfect position behind to follow it up, or someone's already rotated a little bit earlier. And they're not afraid to, I guess, once something doesn't work out, back up and get boost so they can continue to sustain that offense as compared to just trying to make it work now. Like they're very, very well coordinated when it comes to sustaining offense. You don't really feel the urgency from them. Like if you watch from their perspective, you don't really feel like they're overexerting themselves, which is a really weird thing. They have such a cadence to their play that's just, it's overwhelming. And if what Reynolds is saying is true, where, you know, they're hungry and this is the worst he wants to look moving forward and nose down and just going to grind, Space Station could go back to that lethality that they want leading into the World Championship. I think that major from the last time where they fell flat has really woken this team up. You can even read Chrome's tweet, and he talks about how he's happy that the team has pushed their egos aside and they're willing to grind and to really turn it around. So Space Station looking pretty good against NRG. They then go up against Team Envy in the grand finals. And of course, Team Envy keeps it close. A lot of big goal games, and surprisingly enough, even though Envy doesn't really score that much, sometimes they just whittle you down. And you see that in a couple games, actually. Game both 2 and I think 5 is 4-1 in favor of Envy, where they will punish you for mistakes. They play clean rotational play. Their defense is super strong, and if you mess up, they will get you for it. I say that, but they also do a really good job of controlling the midfield. There's numerous times where, whether it be Turbo or Mist or Atomic, where they were supposed to rotate out, they got 0 boost, and they half rotate and jump in front of the play to just stop it and buy their teammates on defense a little bit of time. It's really good play, but despite that, Space Station does close it out. A couple goals here and there. Reynolds hit some nasty shot in one of the games. I forget exactly where it was, but it was like a flip reset backboard thing. And it's like, sometimes that's what it takes. Sometimes it takes that individual performance to really step up. Particularly, I want to give special shout outs to Chicago as well. Chicago played really, really well this weekend and super speedy and did a lot of really exciting things for G2. So special shout out to Chicago, but ultimately, Space Station 4-3 grand finals. They're back. This is the first time, like I mentioned, that Space Station has won, whether it be a major or a main event like a regional, since October 25th, which was the fall major. It's been quite a while, so I'm sure they needed this. They are really happy to make that final run with one more regional before the World Championship. So congrats to Space Station. Congrats on the W. And time to talk about what this means for the rankings. So special shout out to Direct. If you guys don't know Direct, he's been feeding stats to a bunch of us, the RLCS casters, myself, and a bunch of others. Both him and a couple others in the Discord, CCP and others, do a really good job of tracking a lot of things. This in particular is actually really cool. So if you check on Liquipedia and you check the overall rankings, you can actually see that there's 4 teams automatically qualified for World Championships. This was not the case when I recorded my video for tomorrow. I apologize for that. But you've got Energy as your first team to qualify at 2,900 points. You've then got Envy to qualify behind them, 2,700 points. You then got Space Station behind them at 2,373. And then behind them is Rogue at 2,100. And I'm just leaving out their wins just because it's easier to say. So you have Energy, Envy, Space Station, Rogue, World Championship. They have qualified. They will go to Worlds if there is a World Championship. That is without a doubt happening. Congrats to them. That is super awesome and got to be a really good feeling. So no matter what, even if they get 0 points, they're fine. The next 6 teams are able to qualify, but one has a little asterisk next to their name. So you've got G2, FaZe Clan, Kansas City Pioneers, Alpine Esports, Susquehanna Sonics, and Pittsburgh Knights. Those are the 6 teams that can qualify for LAN still. But Pittsburgh Knights, who is at the very bottom in 10th, the only way they can qualify is if G2 does not make it out of groups in the remaining events, whether it be the major, whether it be the regional 3 event. G2 cannot make it out of groups, and PK is going to pop off. So Pittsburgh Knights, good luck to you all, but it is not going to be easy. So with that said, those are your ranking updates. I will try to do an overall ranking updates. Couple plans for videos this week to keep you guys up to date. I do want to do a power rankings at some point just because it's been a bit, and I think going into the final regional will be a good idea. I want to do a rankings update to let you guys know stuff like this about the teams that have qualified, who's still in the running, teams I'm excited to look for, just kind of my overall thoughts. I also want to talk about the new MMR system and the new ranking system and kind of get you guys' thoughts on that. I'll probably tweet about that soon to kind of get some community feedback for that as well. And trying to schedule some more Rocket Talks for y'all. So that is going to do it for this video. I am absolutely pooped. I'm probably going to go to bed, if I'm being completely honest. After casting like 16 matches of Apex Legends this weekend and watching and trying to get videos and stuff done, I'm just floored. So tomorrow, twitch.tv/Lawler, we'll do a stream, Metal Mondays. Come hang out with us. We'll listen to some metal and just have a vibe, talk about the weekend and all that kind of stuff. But if you guys do like the content, thumbs up, hit subscribe, notifications. Description down below has all the links to everything I've talked about. It also has all links to all my social medias if you want to follow those. And I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.